How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Liberty Hour, streaming through Spreaker Studio and the 16 Jackson AJ1 YouTube or 16 Jackson AJ1 Twitter account, the A2 Jack YouTube channel. I am back here with my friend Royce, and we've been talking about some of the NFL rule changes, and we have one more that we're actually going to get into here that we didn't get to go through before break, and that is so. The NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, standing with the other league executives in front of a backdrop, announced on Tuesday that the league would allow pass interference to be reviewed via instant replay in 2019. This comes after the NFC Championship game where the Saints basically got screwed on that one call, and so now pass interference is able to be reviewed on both sides of the field. And I want to get your thought. Do you think that this is a good thing? Do you feel like it's going to slow the game down too much? What is your thought on this in general?
I think this is horrendous, and I think expanding replay is almost necessary now because there have been a bunch of bad calls in games, but to just make it pass interference to me is the biggest problem because I'm sick and tired of seeing Tom Brady get slapped in the chest and it getting called roughing the passer. Like, why is that not attached to this rule for review?
Yeah, I would agree. You either have to make it all be reviewable like that, or you have to make none of it be reviewable. And I think with the increasing amount of technology that we see in today's world, is obviously going to be, better camera angles, better ways to review stuff. More. We're going to see stuff in football that is going to be reviewed a lot more. Replay is going to be eventually expanded to almost everything at some point or another, which is why, I would say, 2-3 decades down the road, I'm sure they're already starting this with some of the bigger high schools and junior colleges. We're probably going to see it to the point where at least the places that can afford it, like D1, D2 schools, there's going to be replay in high school and stuff like that. And so it's going to get to a point where we're going to see it on all levels that basically officials have a way out of almost any situation. I kind of don't like that because at the same time, while I think the job should be done perfectly, obviously people make mistakes, and I think that that's the whole point of there being officials, is they're going to get some calls right, they're going to get some calls wrong, but that's the reason why they're there.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's the reason why baseball's ruined for me, because there's no longer that thrill of, oh my God, he got the call wrong. You can challenge it whenever. And with this, we're basically blaming the refs for human error. You're watching something at full speed, and if you can't make a judgment call in that moment, you have to go with the safest decision. And what does the refs a huge disservice is the cable networks immediately show the 100th of a second showing of the play, and it looks horrible, and it if only we could see it at that speed in real time, but we can't. And I think it shouldn't be at all be reviewable unless you added more big time penalties onto the list of reviewable plays. And here's the unintended consequence, like we talked about with the proposal about onside kicks. What are we going to do with Hail Marys now? Because pass interference happens on Hail Marys every single play.
Yep. Yeah.
It just doesn't get called, and because it's a high risk play. But now you're going to see end of games where I'm just going to say Aaron Rodgers against the Cowboys, I'm just going to throw that out there. Mm-hmm. Throws it downfield to Devontae Adams, and it looks completely normal. And then Matt LaFleur, who's the new head coach, throws the challenge flag. They reverse it, and they get the ball at the 1 yard line. The Skip Baylesses of the world are going to go insane because they thought it was unfair when they've championed this rule forever. So there's no way you can win by implementing this rule.
Yeah. No, I have to completely agree with you on that. So, but it's going to be interesting to see when it actually is put in practice, and that's why I said on my show is even though I disagree with this, I want to see it put in practice and see what's actually going to happen coming out of it. So, Well, I agree with you. I'm not going to immediately say personally that I think it's going to be a complete failure, but I want to see it put in practice for the first couple weeks of the regular season, come late August, early September, and we'll see how it actually pays off. But I definitely think that you make some great points in that.
Yeah.
Go
I'm
for it.
just,
Sorry.
Can I just add this? I'm just going to add this. They are keeping it to 2 challenges, which is fine. So we're not going to be seeing it like every play. They're not making it like, oh, you get 5 challenges to do this.
But is this something that,
But
like, when it comes down to the below 2 minutes where, like, everything's reviewable upstairs, is that something that, like, they can review upstairs now as well?
oh yeah, so what's going to happen is it's not challengeable after 2 minutes, so it's completely in the booth's head or the booth's hands. So who knows? Every play we might get stopped for 10 seconds to see if there was a penalty.
But see, that's going to be interesting as well, because it's like they have their own choice of basically deciding the team's fate. Is that something that we feel should be reviewed or not? So then you're putting it in their hands as well. It just I don't know about that.
It's either you check every play within 2 minutes or you make it completely lawless.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll have to wait and see. We always overreact when new rules are thought up of, especially when they're because of egregious missed calls like the Kel Roby Coleman situation in the championship game. But at the same time, we have to see these things play out. And because what's going to happen is one team's going to get screwed because they made a good defensive play. And it's just going to be problem. I mean, to the point where they said, as going through the meeting, that the Brandon Cooks play right before the Gilmore interception in the Super Bowl was pass interference. The Rams would have had the ball at the 1 yard line if they reviewed the play. Mm-hmm. So really, you're just Saints. No, in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. No, I see what you're saying now. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm thinking back to the championship game.
So the play right before the Stephon Gilmore interception,
right? Okay,
would have been considered pass interference. So I'm just saying based on what the league said, but it's just one of those things where they have to figure it out.
Oh, and obviously with technology, I don't think that obviously before technology, people probably weren't talking about this nearly as much. With technology, they are, because they're able to see every play, and I almost think that when you have it as you don't review anything and you leave it up to the refs, I feel like that's a much more natural flow pace of the game. But we're never going to see that with technology, and there So at this point, like I said, it's going to become a thing in 20 to 30 years' time with the amount of technology that is advancing in this world, that we're going to have every single thing that will be reviewed. But my thing is, will people still watch football if that is the thing at that time? Where do people draw the line on this?
Yeah. Well, here's one thing that I would honestly hope that they are actually thinking about when it comes to this rule is if they don't call it, and they have to go to replay to review it, they have to make it a maximum 15 yards. They can't, in my opinion, you cannot go there and be, booth review under 2 minutes, let's say 30 seconds left in the game, and we're just going to award Patrick Mahomes 60 yards because it was pass interference because he threw the ball that far.
Yeah.
If you're not going to call it on the field, you can't give him the full yardage. Or else it really will call into question the integrity of the game for me. And I mean, it could just become a huge nightmare for the league to the point where they could just get rid of this rule immediately.
Well, and that's why I like college more when it comes to pass interference, because it is 15 yards, and I feel like that's more fair, because when you have teams that are throwing up bombs, like you mentioned, Hail Marys and stuff like that, when there are pass interference calls on those and they go down to the 1 yard line, I mean, it almost completely destroys the idea of playing defense and defending. Like if it's a 15-yard penalty, you still have to throw a Hail Mary and at that point in time. And I just don't think it should be down to the 1 yard line if you're at midfield throwing up a prayer that has a 0.1% chance of being caught. And then you have an easy 1 yard rush in if you have one of the best running backs. I just don't think that that's the right way to go about it in the game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah. Well, transitioning out of that, I understand that you either have some mock drafts or you've made a mock draft, and I kind of I have a little bit of an idea, at least the beginning. I kind of focused on more of the Raiders and the Niners because they're the second and fourth pick. That's kind of what I'm more focusing on in terms of seeing. But I'm interested to see what you've got. So go ahead. We'll just do your first five, and I want you to tell me why you think that these teams will draft these players. Go ahead and tell me with your top five who you've got.
All right, so we start off number 1, Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, quarterback, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It's kind of a common first pick you see in these drafts, and really they're going complete rebuild. They're already talking about trading Josh Rosen. There's 3 teams involved in talks. It's the Giants, Patriots, and another team looking for a quarterback. It's the obvious pick. Cliff Kingsbury's the new head coach there. They're going to do a new offensive scheme, and it just fits the system they have. You have David Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald's in his what would be last season. You have Christian Kirk, who you drafted last year. That's who I have the Cardinals going with number 1. San Francisco 49ers, Nick Bosa, defensive end, Ohio State. Just imagine this as a Niner fan, Aaron. Imagine this.
Okay.
Nick Bosa on one side, D Ford on the other, and you got DeForest Buckner in the middle with whoever else you're going to put it at the nose tackle. That's the best defensive line in your division.
I personally think that we have a great chance to not just be a great offense with the running backs we have, but I really think if we do draft Bosa, which I have Bosa on mine too, I really think we have a really good possibility of being, because I think we have underrated defenders, especially in our secondary. Even though some of them are getting older and Sherman and stuff like that, I think we really have potential to be a top 10 defense in the league.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you this, the San Francisco 49ers had the best free agency out of any team in the league.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Kevin
Coleman,
everyone complained about Quan Alexander and the money you gave him. Fact of the matter is, look at what C.J. Mosley's making in New York. You're paying him $3.5 million less. You went and got when healthy, an elite corner with that money and Jason Verrett to pair opposite of Richard Sherman.
I forget, you're a Cincinnati fan, right?
I am a Bengals fan,
Bengals fan, okay, I did get that right. Okay, just making sure.
And so you have Verrett, you have Sherman, your safeties are still question marks, but you've got the replacement to Reuben Foster, and he's a class act player from what I've heard. Adding Nick Bosa would give you the most dynamic defensive ends in the league with D Ford, who you acquired in trade. They could easily become one of the better defenses in the league, especially if the home crowd is there to cheer them on. Number 3, New York Jets. Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle, Alabama.
Okay.
Now, the reason I went Quinnen Williams is because you look at their defensive line, they're switching to a 4-3. You're going to have Leonard Williams on one side of the defensive line. You're going to have, my prediction is Henry Anderson, who they signed as a free agent, on the other. And then your middle is what would be a Nathan Shepard, who they drafted and they have high hopes for, and then another third, fourth string D tackle. You need to upgrade that spot. Quinnen Williams is the second best player in the draft. You throw him in the middle next to Leonard Williams. Nightmare for offensive lines in that division, and there are not many good ones. Patriots probably have the best one. And then behind you, you have Avery Williamson and C.J. Mosley to back you up. That front seven is solidified immediately. Number 4, Oakland Raiders, Josh Allen, defensive end, Kentucky.
Okay.
This is a steal for the Raiders at 4 because he's and talked about going at 2. And a lot of people would say Josh Allen's a better pass rusher than Nick Bosa, only because Nick Bosa had the support around him with more quality players and Josh Allen didn't, based on the program. Mm-hmm. I still am going to go Nick Bosa at 2 because he's the best player available.
Okay.
Josh Allen, though, is a star pass rusher, potentially replacement for Khalil Mack on a defense that is basically an aging defense, but they've solidified the front 4 with Maurice Hurst, who was a steal in the 4th round, and then you have Arden Key, who was another steal, and Josh Allen on the other side is a tremendous player to add. And the final pick at 5, and I might add the Bengals pick after this just to get it out there.
Okay.
Buccaneers at 5, Montez Sweat out of Mississippi State. I'm hearing a lot of buzz about this kid. He did come out with there was a heart condition detected in at the combine. They said it wasn't a big deal, and the Buccaneers have been really aggressive on Montez Sweat from what I'm hearing. He would be an instant upgrade. Now they're switching to a 3-4, and you're going to pair him with Shaquille Barrett, who was a backup to Von Miller in Denver and a quality backup. and the with Bruce Arians as the head coach in Tampa.
And I have to cut you
Built
off right
that
there. I'm sorry, Royce. At the end of this 15 minutes, we'll be right back to the next part.